White House, that's a big deal. That doesn't happen a lot in normal administration. So what is being done to stop this? This will paralyze the administration if it goes on.
Well, that's right. And look, I don't think, the intelligence community, they have traditionally been nonpartisan. But let me be clear. We see time and time and time again now that the president is having private conversations that very few people have access to, that in many cases are classified. The Drudge Report had a story today that classified information was leaked again by a president's conversation with another world leader. That is being done from the intelligence community solely to discredit this president. They don't want to see him be successful. They are doing so not just at the detriment of the president, but at the detriment of the entire country. These people need to be held accountable. They need to be found out who they are. They need to be removed immediately. And if they have committed a crime, they need to be prosecuted for that crime.
So there's going to be, or there already is, in fact, a criminal investigation underway, and we're not exactly sure who the targets are, but presumably everyone who works over there and anyone in the orbit. What's going to happen if the people conducting that investigation start leaking what they find during the course of it?
Well, again, you completely erode the public trust. And, no matter what takes place, there are things that should be brought out to the public in the interests of full disclosure, and there are things that should be done behind the scenes to make sure that they aren't leaked. And what we've seen in this administration, unlike in the Obama administration or the Bush administration before him, is the leaks from within the organization. I think what has to be done is the president has about 4,000 presidential appointments. I think the staff needs to work as due diligence as quickly as possible to make sure his appointees are being put in place. We have seen time and time again the holdovers. We saw at the Department of Education just yesterday a holdover quit as opposed to testifying before the committee. We saw that Sally Yates refused to implement a direct order of the president and was removed from her job. These people who served under the Obama administration will do anything they can to destroy this president. They need to be removed, and they need to be brought in. New people need to be brought in who are loyal to the president and, moreover, loyal to the country.
Yeah, I mean, like yesterday, and we don't have time to ask why that hasn't been done, but it is the question that hangs in the air. Corey Lewandowski, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Oscar Lopez Rivera. Well, New York's annual Puerto Rican Day Parade is coming up in 2 weeks, and this one will make national news. Organizers have announced they're going to honor a man called Oscar Lopez Rivera during the parade. Who's he? Well, just a terrorist, literally. Lopez Rivera was a leader with the FALN, a Puerto Rican paramilitary group that was committing all kinds of attacks throughout the United States in the 70s and 80s in an effort to make Puerto Rico communist. They murdered 5 people in New York during a series of bombings. Lopez Rivera would still be in prison for as many crimes, but President Obama commuted his sentence just before leaving office with very little fanfare since the press didn't really bother to cover it, and he went free. Jermaine Williams is on the City Council of New York City, and he signed a letter praising Lopez Rivera, declaring solidarity with him. I'm not even sure what to say about this. I mean, you represent New York City, a city you'd think would be sensitive to terror, and yet you're endorsing an admitted terrorist. There's no debate about what the guy did. He admitted it. So why would you do that?
I'm going to be marching the Puerto Rican Day Parade to celebrate the heritage and the culture there. Mr. Lopez has said that he hasn't committed any violent crimes and hasn't been associated with violent crimes. And lastly, a lot of these things depends on the vantage point that we're looking at. And so Nelson Mandela was a terrorist until 2008, 5 years before his death by the United States government. And so a lot of times people are conflating and they use violence, as they say, as a separation. But what they're trying to say
I don't even know. You didn't even do your research. I mean, what do you mean you didn't admit it? He did admit it. He was convicted. He was convicted. Hold, slow down. I actually read contemporaneous news reports today. In 1981, he went on trial. He was convicted of armed robbery and bomb making and a bunch of other things. He admitted that he did it. Then President Clinton tried to offer him clemency if only he would renounce violence, and he wouldn't. So there's no debate that the guy committed acts of violence. He admitted to armed robbery.
Because they didn't recognize the United States, they actually didn't put up a defense. And so everyone, the United States just went ahead and did their own case. But he has renounced violence.
That's not true. He was tried in our justice system and admitted that he committed armed robbery and made bombs.
That aside, we should get to the real point. And so many people conflate saying, I don't believe in the tools of the cause when they really just don't believe in the cause to begin with. So I submit to you what strategy should be used to fight for one's freedom, justice, and
well,
equity.
how about the strategy they use in Puerto Rico, which is having referenda where the Puerto Ricans get to vote on whether they want to be an independent country or a state or a territory,
Sure.
which they regularly do. They do that all the time. You obviously don't follow this in any detail. You're glomming on to the guy because he's a fashionable communist, but he's also a terrorist.
Again, Nelson Mandela was viewed as a terrorist till 2008.
But this isn't, are you really comparing him to Nelson Mandela?
Yeah. Martin Luther King was the most dangerous man in America by the FBI. He was shot and killed violently. What we're saying, and we do this very often.
Did Martin Luther King commit armed robbery?
What we're saying
you could
is,
say that, no, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is we conflate a lot of issues. We oftentimes don't believe in the
you're
cause.
Conflating issues.
Actually
I'm
not.
not even attacking the cause.
Sure.
I'm merely saying armed robbery and making bombs are not legitimate forms of political expression,
Well,
and you are saying they are.
The United States has supported people who have done violent acts in the course of getting their freedom across the world.
Okay,
what we tend to do is...
Okay, but I'm not for that. Are you for that?
I'm not, but what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is we should be consistent. So when the St. Patrick's Day Parade celebrated the IRA by having them in their parade, the NYPD did not participate, possibly because there was a lot of Irish in the NYPD.
Okay, well, I guess I'm against that too, but like, I don't understand. What do you... I mean, look, you could say the same thing about Timothy McVeigh. He thought he was committing an act of war against the United States. How would you have felt if President Bush had commuted his sentence before his execution and he was honored in a parade?
Yeah, but so now you're comparing different things. We have a colony that has no representation and can't vote for president, can't vote in Congress, and what they're saying is they either want statehood or they want independence.
They get to vote. Now, again, I'm trying to be patient,
Sure.
but you don't know anything about this. They get to vote on whether they want... Okay, then are you aware that they get to vote, popular vote, on whether they want to be their own country? And they don't. I think they should, by the way. They don't because they get so much in aid from the United States.
No, but there are some people who actually do and have been fighting it for some time. The question is, what do we do when people are fighting for their freedom and justice? And so often we try to pretend...
So it's legitimate to commit
No,
armed
what I'm saying is I don't condone that. I support nonviolent. But what I'm saying is even when we do nonviolent resistance, whether it's sitting down for the Pledge of Allegiance, whether it's simply people saying Black Lives Matter, people get excoriated with the same language.
You are a demagogue who's endorsing violent behavior. You're an elected official who is making excuses for violent behavior, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
People oftentimes pretend they prefer one strategy over another when they just don't prefer any strategy at all.
Well, I don't prefer armed robbery. It's pretty simple. And you're in a position of responsibility.
Absolutely.
People voted for you. They look to you. They take their cues from you. And you should say unequivocally,
violent behavior. But this country...
You're supporting a guy who admitted to armed robbery, and you're saying it was a revolutionary act.
People who became the Taliban. This country has supported Saddam Hussein. So we are saying one thing for a group of people
when
and
things
another
fall
for
apart,
another.
It's people like you who will be responsible for them. People who told their constituents it's okay to use violence.
Who actually try to conflate issues. But what I'm saying to you, whatever it is that is brought up when it comes to strategies for freedom and justice, the people who are privileged usually try to dictate what should be done and who people should celebrate.
All of us, of all colors and all incomes, can agree that armed robbery is not legitimate. You can't agree.
No, what I'm saying to you is, tell me one...
I'm out of time, Councilman. Well, totally insane. At colleges across America, spaces are becoming safer and safer with dire consequences for anyone with a controversial idea. After the break, we'll talk to Adam Carolla, the most popular podcast host in the world, and the great Dennis Prager about their upcoming documentary on campus safe spaces. Plus, the press is obsessed with Melania and Ivanka's clothing choices. Our Top That panel will decide if that's merely silly or, in fact, the single silliest story of the day. Are fleeing in terror from uncomfortable ideas, retreating into now omnipresent safe spaces where they can live lives free of scary ideas they don't understand. Now Adam Carolla wants to put them at risk. He's teaming up with radio host Dennis Prager to make a documentary film called No Safe Spaces. We're going to travel the country and ask college kids about the suppression of dissent on campus. Here's part of it.
The University of Tomorrow is here, a place of discovery, tolerance, and acceptance.
Our commitment to diversity means that nobody graduates until they think just the right way.
At Utopia University, there are no violent words to hurt me.
I will punch you if you're a fascist.
I'm going to be the next Che Guevara.
We speak out against privilege.
We've checked our privilege.
Welcome to Utopia U.
A wonderful place to learn that everything your parents taught you is wrong.
Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager join us now. Boy, this film is overdue. Adam, what did you learn in traveling the country?
Well, so far, we've only hit a couple of colleges, but all you have to do is watch your show, and you'll learn everything you need to know about campuses turning into a romper room.
I mean, it's so distressing. Dennis, when you talk to these kids, do they know how unfree they are?
They don't care. This is what's so disturbing. What was it, a Pew poll, I think it was? About half of the kids at college in America today believe in freedom of speech, because the others, when you ask them, and you could see this on the internet, it's amazing to watch these kids say this, oh, we believe in free speech, just not for hate speech. Not understanding that nobody ever really needed to protect love speech.
Well, hate speech is not actually a legal category. Kind of hilarious that they think it is. So, Adam, when you go to these camps, you got the biggest podcast in the world, by the way. Congratulations on that. When you show up at these college campuses, or when you deal with college students, do they understand that things are very different now from the way they were when you were in college? Do they sort of know that they're in the middle of this moment, or do they think it was always this way?
I wasn't in college, but thank you. I was on a construction site picking up garbage.
That's my favorite thing about you. I forgot that.
The only hydrating I did was a gourd full of my own tears, Tucker. No, they'll remind me of that kid from the Twilight Zone who's just going to wish anyone into the cornfield who disagrees with them. And we're also scared to be wished into the cornfield by these little snot-nosed brats that we just follow suit.
You know, it's actually, we're making this movie, and it's at nosafespaces.com. We're making this movie, but the truth is it's impossible to parody what actually takes place. Harvard, and I want all your viewers to look this up, because what I'm about to say will sound like we made it up, or certainly like Adam made it up. At Harvard, they announced, I think it was last week, that no longer will there be fines on your overdue library book, which is 50 cents a day, by the way, 50 cents a day, because we understand how much pressure a Harvard student already has on him or her. You don't have to pay your overdue book fine.
Then why, I mean, the obvious question, final question to you, Adam, since you didn't go to college and you did just fine, why would you send your kids to college?
Great question.
I would like you to come and speak to my wife, Tucker, because I've been saying this for a million years. Yep. We're just sending them to be poisoned. Yeah, exactly. Like that Nike commercial. Like they're out in the audience wearing gray jumpsuits and being indoctrinated into these horrible ideologies. To be fair, some of them should be scared when the giant Jewish guy comes and yells at them. But other than that, they have no excuses.
Right, I'm very scary. I really do. I scare them.
Well, I hope
the whole
you do
thing's
scare
it's
them.
painful. Yes,
it is.
Yes, you're
No
right.
Safe Spaces is the movie, and every person on the show is going to watch that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tucker.
Well, don't miss our entire hour of stories like this. On Monday, Memorial Day, we bring you a special edition of the show Campus Craziness. It'll be in this time slot, 8 Eastern on Monday. Grab a beer and enjoy yourself. Well, in the wake of the Manchester bombings on Monday, Katy Perry says she's got an easy solution for stopping all terrorism. She's figured it out. Is it the weirdest story of the day? Top that. The Weird Story Contest is next.
On terror. As Trump pushes NATO to step up defense spending, how will world leaders respond to the president? Krauthammer and Gingrich weigh in tomorrow on The Story.
The weirdest thing that has happened today in the news. Here to decide for us, Jillian Turner, former White House National Security Council employee, probably the best one, and Lisa Booth, star of the Washington Examiner, and they join us tonight on the set. Great to see you. Lisa, what do you have? Blow my mind.
Well, Tucker, there's been a lot of talk about how to stop terrorism, and I think we finally found the answer.
I think, the greatest thing that we can do now is just unite as people. as like fan bases, all of it, you know? I think that the greatest thing we can do is just unite and love on each other, and like no barriers, no borders. Like we all need to just coexist.
Well, there's actually been reports that...
Who was that?
That was Katy Perry.
Katy Perry.
So
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, no idea.
Tucker.
No clue.
Oh my God.
But there's actually been reports that al-Baghdadi and ISIS were so moved by these statements that they've decided to lay down their arms.
You know, I'm not surprised because the coexist bumper sticker has been remarkably effective in the war against terror.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? With all the religious symbols on it, visualize world peace and all that stuff,
Well,
and it just stops them in their tracks.
And too, the irony of this is the fact that she lives in an almost $20 million gated community. She's got a security detail, so clearly she is the last person to have to worry about any sort of danger around her. So it's just ridiculous.
Now you're just trying to make Tucker jealous.
But I think Nikki Haley might have to watch her back now, because I think we might have found a new UN ambassador.
Well, the rest of us could just love on each other and think about that.
And solve all the world's
Jillian?
problems.
Jillian, can you beat that?
I think so.
Okay.
You've known me for a while.
Yes.
It takes a lot to offend me.
Yes.
A lot at this point. You know, I've been
You're
doing
remarkably
good to know.
even-tempered. It's your
I
years
am,
on the National
really,
Security Council.
exactly.
Yeah.
Working for 2 administrations, everybody hates me. That's fine.
Yes.
But this week I got offended. And I wanted to bring this story to you.
Okay.
As you know, the president traveled to the Middle East, and most of the news cycle has been focused on that for good reason. You know, this sends signals all around the world. Everything is up for grabs, for analysis when it comes to this trip. How long he's away for, what countries he visits, what order he visits them in, how long he stays, who he meets with, who goes with him, all fair game. But I felt like there was an inordinate amount of attention this year and like pithy analysis of what the First Lady and Ivanka Trump wore on their heads. Whoa. And my issue with this, the main commentary was about the fact that they wore veils in Vatican City when they visited the Pope, and they didn't wear head coverings in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Which is all that's fine. But to focus on this, I think, and to have a complete lack of any discussion about what the men around them, who are actually the stars of the show, were wearing, was sort of sexism at its most insidious. Because to me, the most dangerous kind of sexism is that which is so omnipresent and accepted that nobody even notices it.
See, I would diagnose this differently. I would say it's not sexism, it's multiculturalism. The argument is you have to show the same respect to the Saudi royal family as you do the Pope. And I would say, no, you don't.
Well, there's an easy answer to that, which is the reason that the way these decisions get made is by State Department Protocol Office. They set the tone and the guidelines for the trip. This was not personal decisions they made. So
I just think
that quells a little bit of your criticism, I think.
It's just good to know that Jillian doesn't get offended easily. There's a lot of leeway.
All right. By the way,
you
win because I can't watch that Katy Perry clip again.
I don't want.
But you do. But you get the consolation trophy because you're a good person.
I don't want one. I want to win.
Yes, you. Next week. Thank you both. We'll be right back.
BP engineered a fleet of 32 brand new ships with advanced technology so we can make sure oil and gas get where they need to go safely. Because safety is never being satisfied.
Well, the institutional left has been claiming for weeks that President Trump engaged in obstruction of justice by firing an FBI director who committed plenty of fireable offenses. Let's compare that behavior with the actual behavior of a Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida. Capitol Police are investigating a staffer of hers who may have caused a massive cybersecurity breach and run a multi-million-dollar procurement scam. They're investigating it, and as part of that, they seized a laptop. The laptop wasn't taken from Wasserman Schultz's office, but now she's claiming she owns it. And since she happens to sit on the House Appropriations Committee, which controls the budget for the Capitol Police, she called in their chief and threatened him with punishment if his officers wouldn't pull back. Here's part of it.
My understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there will be consequences.
There will be consequences. A member of Congress straight up threatening the cops about what will happen if they don't ignore evidence. That's obstruction. Daily Caller broke that story. We'll see who else who picks it up. We're back tomorrow at 8. Hope you join us then. The 5 starts right now.
Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and she snowboards on a bottle cap. Dana Perino, the 5. New arrests in connection with Monday's terror attack in Manchester. Authorities are still hunting down the bomb maker before the jihadis can strike again. Details ahead. But first, expecting wisdom from a pop star is like expecting sonnets from a gerbil. Except last night, Bono said this of terrorists.
They hate music. They hate women. They even hate little girls. They hate everything that we love. And, you know, the worst of humanity was on view in Manchester last night, but so was the best, as people took perfect strangers into their houses and queued up for blood banks. And Manchester has a undefeatable spirit, I can assure you.
He's right. Islamists see fun as evil, maybe because it's missing in their ghoulish, cowardly lives. Pop singer Morrissey from the Smiths, you remember them, went even further. When the Manchester mayor, Andy Burnham, called the attacker an extremist, Morrissey asked, an extreme what? An extreme rabbit? This is the same mayor who said the jihadist was a terrorist and not a Muslim. Sorry, guy, he's both. But to avoid the bigot stigma, the mayor avoids a truth, which is a pattern. BBC News claims the calls were made to a terror hotline about the bomber years before he struck. So why no action? Could it be, again, the fear of appearing bigoted? But at least some entertainers are starting to reject this. Maybe they realize that hugs won't bring peace, but a willingness to fight does. You want to know how pop music actually flourished? How the Beatles were able to sing All You Need Is Love? You can thank veterans who dispatched heinous enemies in some really ugly wars, giving pop music center stage in long periods of peace. So can music survive under a caliphate? I doubt it. ISIS has no use for Coldplay. Bataclan, the Pulse nightclub, Manchester, all young people, all music fans, all targets. So maybe it's time we speak less of love and more about evil. Maybe it's time for All You Need Is Guts. So, Jesse, what do you make of Bono? I mean, he's always a clear-eyed thinker in this thing, and I think he kind of like explained it fairly succinctly.
Yeah, I think it was a very courageous thing for Bono to say. I mean, I remember after 9/11 in this country, there's a lot of unity. And you had people like Bruce Springsteen, liberal guy who was doing free concerts for a lot of these victims. George Clooney, liberal guy, raising a lot of money. And you had even Hillary was down at Ground Zero, Schumer, Bush, everybody was together. And I think after 9/11, you know, everybody came together and we wanted to go after Afghanistan. There was a lot of bipartisan support that dissipated. But when pop stars, especially liberal pop stars, can speak the truth about evil, it galvanizes people that are apolitical, young Americans, liberal Americans, to say, you know what, it's okay to say radical Islam. It's okay to describe the heinous acts that these people are committing. And it gives them license. Because when you're able to do that, and you're clear-eyed and you're united, it enables the country to come together and actually defeat evil instead of just kind of placating it like we've been doing.
You know, Kimberly, entertainers, I think, should step up because it seems to me recently with these examples, they're targeting their fans because I think the belief is you can't be a fan of their God if you're a fan of a pop star. So it's almost like, you know, it's some kind of sacrilege. Or you know, because you go to Ariana Grande and not a mosque. So shouldn't more pop stars be speaking out?
Yes, I think it's courageous because people do listen. They have a voice, and Bono is exactly right. They hate our whole way of life. They hate everything about Western civilization. They can't stand the freedom that we have in this country as women. I mean, how horrific to target specifically young girls, women, and their parents that are going to a concert like this. This was no accident. This was specific. And if you see under Sharia law, nothing but disdain for women, for children. You have young girls being sold into slavery by ISIS, being raped and tortured. Horrific things, some of them so bad that you don't even hear about them in the media. They don't even want to talk about them on the news. But this is the reality of the situation. You have to be able to face it. You have to be able to deal with it and use a variety, a platform of weapons to be able to target them. And by that, I mean, yes, social media and pop stars and education. And you've got to be able to put out your own propaganda to match theirs, because otherwise you have people that will be attracted to this, people like the president called them evil losers, people that specifically are looking for somewhere to go, for some relevancy in their lives, and they're just sitting there waiting for something like this and for radical jihad to soak into them so that they can commit some kind of act that they think is significant, so that their life has some matter to it, some importance.
You know, Dana, most entertainers, they prefer the safe route. So it's about going online and saying hashtag love, peace, let's live in harmony, all that stuff. At a certain point, shouldn't they just stop that and say love is not enough? It's time to act.
Musicians used to be radical,
yes.
right? So like that was one of the things that musicians pushed the envelope, especially on cultural things. And in fact, one of the big stories, especially out of the civil rights movement, was really that musicians were actually helpful to try to bring people together. But they were pushing the envelope too. They were making people question past practices. Interesting thing here is that in Western civilization, we send our children to concerts. Abadi's father sent him to die, to kill other people. And so when you're dealing with that type of an ideology, I'm not exactly sure how you fix it, but you mentioned something last week, I don't think it was on air, but we're talking about the Toby Keith concert in Saudi Arabia, and of course there weren't women allowed, so there was a little bit of controversy there. But the truth is that they actually, young Muslim people like our culture.
Yes.
They like the music. They maybe have to listen to it privately. So if I were the politicians and there's some new people on the scene, Theresa May, Macron, President Trump. Why not recruit some of these musicians to actually help? Call upon their patriotism. Ask them to help to either put on some big event if they want. If they actually have the power to reach a lot more people than we do.
That's a good point,
Justin Trudeau,
Juan.
call Justin Bieber.
Yeah, I mean, there are amazing
Send
examples.
Bieber to Iraq. That'll solve everything.
That would be interesting, but they have these amazingly historical concerts. Juan, we remember Live Aid, but nothing you could raise awareness for global warming, climate change, you name it. You can get them, celebrities to show up like that. But why not for this? Why not something?
I'm surprised that you guys describe Bono as courageous. I think Bono just spoke common sense.
Well, that is courageous.
No, it's
not.
Let me just say, I've been here when you guys say, oh, you know what, these people, these artists, they're speaking out about climate change or discrimination. Oh, who listens to them?
Because that's easy. That's easy, Juan.
No, let me tell you.
It's so easy.
Whoa, and you think it's easy to say, and I'll say it right now. Terrorists are bad, evil, and slimy people who want to kill us.
Yeah,
that's so hard to say. No. I think you have to get away from simple kind of, oh, if Bono says that we've made a breakthrough. No, we got to find effective ways to combat. Dana was talking about this is an age where we have to effectively produce our own positive images to contradict the idea that they're going to be martyred, that they are smarter or they are being courageous when they do horrific acts like we saw in London or Manchester.
She's right, and this is part of it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, you want an all-hands-on-deck philosophy.
Sure.
If it's just Republicans or if it's just right-wing people in Britain or America that are leading the charge against ISIS, and the country's not unified, and the rest of the left is sitting around, listening to Katy Perry and twiddling their thumbs and afraid to say radical Islam is not going to work. But if you can get someone like Bono or Ariana Grande to say, hey, this is evil, it's going to rally people that don't usually pay attention, that's a good thing.
Well, you see, to me, after 9/11, you were describing how everybody rallied here. President Bush's ratings were up through the roof. I mean, it's not only that you could be in Republican enclaves and see support. You could be in Democratic enclaves. You could be in Harlem and see flags everywhere. In fact, I think President Bush spoke about that when he's driving out to Yankee Stadium. So everybody's behind. That's what we need here. But we need a commitment. And yet, what you hear is people say, oh, it's the immigrants. We got to slow down the immigration, or we got to crack down on refugees. I just think that's the wrong approach.
No, I think we need to crack down on the left, who have created a climate of moral relativism. It's different than 2001. We have gone down a really dark, bad road where people are incapable of judging evil for fear of being accused of bigotry, which is why when those people called the hotline, nobody listened.
Who's afraid of condemning bigotry?
Who's afraid of condemning
I don't
bigotry?
get it. You said they're afraid of being called bigots, condemning bigotry,
Right.
condemning terrorism.
Right.
I don't think this
No,
is real, Greg.
No, but when you condemn radical Islam, you were called Islamophobia, and people are scared of being smeared.
I don't think that's true.
I agree.
I think not only do I think
didn't that happen to you? That happened to you on the plane.
No, not on a plane.
Well, no, you said when someone comes on a plane and they're dressed a certain way, it makes you a little nervous. You got fired for that.
Yes,
but you're not Islamophobic.
That was actual Islamophobia.
You're not.
That's real Islamophobia.
Oh my God. What I was going to say is I think it's widespread. Not at all. That's real. But I'm going to say what I think is when you get these Wahhabis, these people, right? I think that's who people need, especially people in the Arab world need to condemn.
What's a better education than watching people slaughter young girls? What more do you need for a call to action?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what else do you need? I mean, in the 70s, we had people come to my classrooms to teach us about cults. Right? It was at the time of Jim Jones and SLA and all these weird movements. Yeah, we're going around. And we were scared out of our wits by these people.
How old are you, Gutfeld?
I'm a young 52. Anyway, my point is this. We aren't doing that. And somebody had written to me and said, how do you talk to kids about this? And I think you can talk to them. You go, we have a planet of human beings, and within that planet is a roving army that seeks to destroy. It's that simple.
Well, it's funny. You can talk to kids, but I talk to Ronan about it all the time, and he had a really good idea. So he said, we've got to do something about this, Mom, and I think we have to go and bomb them. Not the children, but them. And in fact, I might have to strap you to the bomb to go in, because I know you would do a very good job and get them. I'm like, how sweet.
Yeah, what a sweet kid.
But Morrissey's other point, which was, like, Morrissey is an unusual guy, a militant vegan. Like if he goes to a concert, if he has a concert, every single vendor cannot have meat there, and it causes just a major hell. But anyway, on this, not only did he go after the mayor of London for not condemning radical Islam or ISIS, he also went after the prime minister, saying it's easy to be tolerant when you're protected.
Yeah, I mean, these guys work in fortresses, and they get like bodyguards, and they don't take public transportation.
Excuse me.
Totally disconnected from the regular British.
For all your praise, exactly what is the real prescription to solving this problem?
I think last night I gave you a great prescription.
You weren't listening.
I wasn't. Because you know why? Because it was relativism.
Yeah.
You were up to relativism.
Do your little
but you know
hand
what?
gestures.
To me,
what I said
you got to get beyond saying, oh, these pop stars should speak out. Let's talk about what really is going to stop
We
the
do that.
terrorists.
I'm pointing out how refreshing it is to actually hear this.
Oh, yeah.
Number one, you
have to applaud it.
Whenever they say something you like, it's good. Whenever they condemn
Don't
climate
you dare
change,
besmirch the monologue.
Number one, the whole point is to be able to call out radical Islam and risk being called a bigot. That's the gutsiest move you can make, and you should do it whenever possible. When somebody calls you Islamophobic, you say, so what? I don't care. Number two, surveillance. Understand you live in a modern world, and freedom and security go together.
Yeah, I think most Americans agree with you. I don't think people are comfortable being called haters of people who believe in Islam.
That is the whole
You're
strategy.
Making his point.
This whole strategy is that Islamophobia, the term, is designed to shut people down. It's time to say
It's designed to silence. No. Yes, it is. It's designed to shame and to silence and to censor that people don't want to get involved, don't want to see something,
Kimberly,
and say something.
You're very sensitive to when people attack Christians in the Middle East. Do we say,
well,
oh, that's good?
Should be.
What? That's what I am. So why would you be insensitive to someone who...
Because there isn't a radical segment of Christians beheading people.
I'm not
attacking
Islam? I'm talking about radical jihad.
You're conflating radical jihad with Islam.
Right.
No, what we're saying...
You are the bigot.
You said Islamophobia, right?
Islamophobia Islamophobia is a fear of phobia.
Islamophobia.
It's an irrational phobia.
Islamophobia didn't kill little children in Manchester, Juan.
Yeah.
No, I agree, but he said get comfortable
Little British
with
girls are the
Islamophobia.
victims.
No, I said
not
get comfortable with the
Islamic people.
accusation. When
Listen.
somebody says you're being Islamophobic for going after radical
I
Islam,
think
you say,
fine.
so what? What do you got?
No, you know what I
He's
said when they
saying
said
don't
that
let the
about me?
word or
I
the
backed
label
them up.
hurt
I
you
said,
and
here's
stop
what I
it.
meant.
Dana, be
here's why.
quiet. Just stop. You're out of control.
All right.
She's afraid of the Islamophobia.
You asked like what we should do. There's lots of different things that you can do, but one of them is that cultural diplomacy actually works very well. The State Department even has an entire wing or an office that they use sports and cultural diplomacy to try to spread the messages that we want to deliver. So we should support them. And I think that the new politicians that are meeting this Friday or tomorrow in Brussels at NATO work together and try to bring something together. I mean, what could it hurt?
Brussels. There's a protest against Donald Trump, a march against Donald Trump in Brussels. Where's your march against radical Islam? Brussels, where there are terrorists, where there are cells in Belgium, and they're having a protest against Trump. I would use the finger, but I realize it's inappropriate.
And we're live.
Now I'll be quiet.
Greg, we got to go.
Okay.
Details on arrests made in connection with the Manchester attack, plus the hunt for the bomb maker next.
This program is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty stands with you.
Liberty Mutual stood with me when this guy got a flat tire in the middle of the night.
Hold on, Dad.